Hey, let's talk about what I read in April. So, because April is Autism Acceptance Month, I only read books by autistic authors in April. And most of these also have an autistic main character, which is awesome. So, let's go. First, I read Social Cue. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I read my first book by this author last year, and from that moment I had been desperate to read another, and this one did not disappoint. The writing style is easy to read and understand, and each time I sit down with the plan of reading a chapter, it's incredibly likely that a single chapter will turn into several more, possibly without me even realizing I'd reached the end of the first. What I especially love about this author's books is that her characters are openly autistic, and it's never brushed over. These books show quite clearly how being autistic affects a person's life in many different contexts. It shows good things, bad things, and neutral things about being autistic, giving it a very authentic experience and giving readers the opportunity to maybe understand just a little bit better each time. For me, they're comforting and reassuring because I'm not just seeing another character in a book, I'm seeing someone who understands and experiences things in similar ways. I'm seeing that I'm not alone in the ways certain things affect me. I'm seeing that it's okay to take the breaks I need to so I don't implode. They also just tell some really cute stories, even with the dark parts thrown in. This book brought some warmth into my heart as I read it. Next up was How to Breathe Ash. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. This book follows an autistic main character trying to understand and process grief after both of her parents died. Also, Pan-Ace rep. Also, her best friend has POTS. Also, non-binary side rep. Also, a mini Cinderella subplot. Sign me the heck up. While it could do with a round of editing, this book was an incredibly beautiful read that had me constantly switching between laughing, crying, and begging for the main character to recognize the crush she was hiding from herself. This book included a combination of flashbacks and dreams scattered through the chapters, and I loved the way these worked with the plot, often alongside it rather than remaining entirely separate. These sections work to show that grief isn't just about loss, that it can also be traumatic and that it can echo through in various parts of your life. It can be triggered not only by genuine reminders, but by other experiences, both positive and negative. Trying to process grief in general can be difficult, but as an autistic person, there are extra barriers. And then we throw in all of the other things Eleanor is dealing with and processing all at once. That should be a sure sign you're in for an emotional read. There's also a little romance subplot and a little Cinderella kind of thing thrown in, but I don't want to spoil it. It's all incredibly cute though. Next was A Kind of Spark. This was 5 out of 5 stars. I don't think I have a whole lot of thoughts about this book. 5-star books seem to be the hardest to form thoughts for, but I can tell you I loved it. It also made me cry several times, which I suppose is another way of saying it was brilliant. I don't know, it's just really cute and sweet and also a little heartbreaking, or very heartbreaking. Also, autistic kid rep and point of view, showing what school is like for autistic kids is super important, and this book did such a good job with it, while still not making it too dark. What I want to talk about. This was 4 out of 5 stars. Exactly as the title suggests, this book is all about autistic special interests, but it's also a lot more than that. Each chapter focuses on a different special interest the author has had, how they came about, how they affected his life, and how they grew and changed, and some fun little facts about them. But it also talks about what it's like to be autistic and how some of these interests specifically relate to autistic people. It talks about how special interests are important for autistic people and how they can be an incredibly helpful tool. There are also patches that talk about and explain how different things in life, such as family social events, can affect autistic people, what these things can be like, feel like, and the individual problems they can bring with them. There's definitely a lot of excited rambling, which is to be expected, really, in a book about autistic special interests. But if you're willing and patient enough to read through those, there are also a lot of bits in this book that are incredibly informative and important for anyone looking to understand autistic people better. The only issue I found with this book was that some of the sentences ran on a bit too much. Run-on sentences are great, but there's a point where you need to accept that maybe it shouldn't be a single sentence. Sometimes a single sentence would start in one place, mention several different points, and last almost half a page before finally returning to the main point, which, by then, you're struggling to understand. The Brad test, 4 out of 5 stars. I don't have a lot of thoughts on this one. I did love the way it connected back to the Kiss Quotient, though, and the overlaps with the characters. Don't Let the Forest End by C.G. Drews. This was an advanced digital copy. This book comes out at the end of October. It was 5 out of 5 stars. This book is unhinged and beautiful and so incredibly haunting. I'm trying incredibly hard to form genuine thoughts from this incoherent mess inside my brain. Dark academia horror with an asexual main character, and it's a bit gay, and the characters are just codependent, tortured artists, but wow, there are plot twists too. Oh my god, the need, the desperation, the codependency. And the prose is so deeply beautiful and on point with the aesthetic that it haunts you and kind of feels like it's managed to seep right into your soul while you were reading, because it's too hard to look away and there's this insatiable need to see where it's going. And the way it affected me, even in the gaps where I wasn't reading, was brutal. I tried to walk away, but could always feel it in the background, nagging me, pulling me back. I almost ruined 3 days worth of food because I couldn't stop reading this while cooking. The monsters, incredible, terrifying, pretty sure it's time to avoid anything remotely resembling a forest for a while. It also has these snippets throughout the book, pages of these little fairy tale stories, and they are beautiful and dark, but they also give a bit of a glimpse into the main plot. The way this book deals with a range of emotions and shows them through the main character. We feel what he feels, and we understand him, and we recognize his panic and confusion, the heartbreak, the anxiety, the grief, the longing, and everything in between. And to be honest, I am feeling every single thing again while trying to explain this. This book truly melted into my soul. Even if we break, this was 4 out of 5 stars. For the most part, I really enjoyed this book. The overlap between the story and the role-playing game the characters are into was incredibly clever and well done. The characters all had their own stuff going on, as well as things that connected back to the others, and the little snippets of game narration were pretty cool. There was a lot of detail and thought put into this book, and it shows in so many ways. I also loved how open the representation was with the queer characters, physical disabilities, and autism. None of the hard parts were brushed over, and these things were shown as part of who the characters were, as well as showing how they affected them in different moments. This is, of course, a multi-point of view book, and it works really well for the most part, but there is a chunk towards the end where they overlap and the details don't line up. The details of this very crucial scene do not align, specifically regarding the placement of characters in this moment, and it makes it visually inaccurate. It's impossible to picture when we're told entirely different placements by the characters, and this whole scene's impact was somewhat squashed down and didn't hit as hard as it should have, because I spent almost the entire thing trying to figure out where anyone actually was. It also slows right down at the end and feels quite drawn out. I understand the characters had things to say, but some of it felt like it was repetitive or going in circles, and it went on longer than it needed to. And finally, Caring for Your Clown, Book 3, Letting Go of Things, 4 out of 5 stars. While I found this book a little harder to get into than the first two, which I feel is important to note is only due to a certain missing character, it was just as exciting and packed with terror and devastation. The plot twists, the suspense, the character growth, and of course the ending. Nothing could have prepared me for the way this book played out. So that's it. This is what I read in April.